11 times I can't breathe. It reminded me of her son, Eric Gardner. 11 times I can't breathe. I said, I know it's the middle of a pandemic and we're in a lockdown, but I'm on my way to Minneapolis. Will you go? And she said, what time are we leaving? And Tyler Perry sent a private plane and brought us in. There were no flights from New York to Minneapolis. And Gwen and I and my assistant flew down and held a rally. The family had not even come because the family's in Houston. And we held a rally and came back a week later and did the funeral. Gwen has been a real trooper. The mother of Eric Gardner, Gwen Carr.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to say to you, my sister Katie, you're not in this alone. We are here. We are here for you. As these mothers reached out to you, I reach out to you. I embrace you. I empower you. And I hold you in my heart because I know what it is you're going through. You don't know which way to turn. You don't know who to listen to. But pray. Pray to God. As Sequet has just prayed for you, take heed and lift up his name. He will guide your footsteps. In my son's case, I didn't get a day in court, only a departmental trial, which was not enough. That's why I fight. I fight so hard. I don't only fight for my child. I fight for everyone's child. Because either that can knock on any one of your door any day, but you got to be prayed up. You got to be ready. You have to have a arm to lean on. So lean on God's everlasting arm. And don't forget, he is always on the throne. He's the one who sits high and looks low. So no one, don't even think that you are alone. But grieve like you want to. Don't let anyone tell you how to grieve, how long to grieve, and when to stop grieving. You do that yourself. And that's what we all had to do for ourselves. And I just say, God bless you and God keep you, Katie.
I want to acknowledge, and we'll take some questions. I want to acknowledge Reverend Adolphus Lacey, pastor of the historic Bethany Baptist Church in Brooklyn, Alvin Ponder, Reverend DeVestu, and some of our leaders at the convention. Are there any questions?
Reverend Johnson, WABC, Kimberly. If the officer is convicted, the most she could face is 10 years in prison. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, as I said in the beginning, that I would have liked to see more. But I've seen so many cases, some standing right here that got nothing. And I think the fact that she has been charged is better than we get in New York sometimes. But it's not what we feel is just, which is why we want federal laws.
Well, Reverend Shelton Ayala with 611, what do you think made the difference in this case that you're seeing charges, as you mentioned, so many other families?
I think the difference is that there's been a continuing, consistent movement. There's been social media, but there was videotape on Rodney King 30 years ago. It's not just the tape. I think after George Floyd, and Ben Crump and I talk about it all the time, when they saw as many whites as blacks out there marching, they knew that they could no longer cover this up. One thing I saw in the George Floyd situation, the Derek Chauvin trial that I had not seen, is policemen got on the stand and testified against him. The blue wall of silence was pierced in Minneapolis. I want to continue to see that happen.
Shannon from New York One News, I know you've been in touch with the family. They're obviously devastated. Is there anything else you can share about how they're doing?
I will say this, and then Mr. Crump should answer. I talked to the father. I talked to China, who's the mother of the child. They're devastated and don't understand why on some tags are our lives worth no more than expired tags? Are our lives worth no more than a pack of cigarettes or a counterfeit $20 bill? I mean, the worth of our lives have gone from 3/5 of a man to being less than that in these situations. That's why we have to fight. They're devastating, Attorney.
Yeah, and certainly everything Reverend Al said. His family, all of them are just completely devastated. If you heard his aunt Naisha express her agony, her anger, that they were already trying to justify it and explain it away, that we should give this officer a pass, even though their nephew is gone forever. His baby is going to grow up fatherless. Think about how hard a black male child has it in America already. Now add on to that that he's going to have to grow up without his father. And so when we talked to his parents, they did ask those questions. How much time can she get? And it is unfair. Let's just be honest about it.
That's right.
It's very unfair. When you compare apples to apples, we do know that when people of color, especially black people, are accused of a crime, they throw the book at us, no matter what the situation is.
Right.
There was a white lady from Australia, same county, who was killed by an officer of color, Officer North, of Ethiopian descent. Very questionable circumstances. Dark alley, police were called, they shoot in the dark, he kills her. He's charged with third-degree murder. He's convicted. We have a white woman, broad daylight. She says, I went and I got the wrong use of force, even though a gun is 2.6 pounds and a taser is 8 ounces. A gun is black, clearly black. Your taser is black but has bright color markings on it. I think in this situation, yellow markings on it. She held it for 5 seconds at least. At some point, you say, all this training, and they practice putting their weapons every day. All this training. At what point did you not feel that this was a gun in your hand versus a taser? And so the family, obviously, they are glad she got charged. That's more than Leslie or Sequette or Gwen got. But they do hope and pray for a day that we will get equal justice, just like our white brothers and sisters. Why should we always get a fragment of justice?
My God.
Mr. Crump, Netta with ABC, you're standing here with mothers who have to relive the pain every time there's another incident. I just wonder if you could talk about what it will mean if there is a guilty verdict in the Chauvin trial.
You know, I've thought long and hard about this. I've conferred with my mentor, Reverend Al, and talked to some of the mothers as we've gone on these past 11 months. I honestly believe that a conviction in the Chauvin trial for the killing of George Floyd could set a precedence in America where we will find police officers being held accountable and sent to prison for killing black people in America. And it's so important because we can name any number of black men who were unarmed, killed by excessive use of force, and black women. We can't forget Breonna Taylor, and Atiana Jefferson, and Sandra Bland. Any number of marginalized minorities killed where nobody ever gets convicted and go to jail, but then people in their family with not as near the evidence that we had with Rodney King, with Michael Brown, with Stephon Clark. Quinn Clark, my God, it was on video. Almost 25 years after Rodney King, and yet the same outcome. So the prayer and the hope is that this will be the new precedence now. It's going to send a message. As Reverend Al correctly articulated, the blue wall of silence hopefully has been pierced forever. We will have officers coming forward testifying to the truth when people do things that are illegal or unjust. We want the police to come and tell the truth, just like they want people in our community to tell the truth. Well, why don't you show us how to do it? You be the example.
Crump, F1 Lewis, Fox 5 News. The resignation of Officer Carter was kind of not a surprise, but the police chief is also tendered his resignation. You've worked with this, been dealing with him for a year. Can you just react to him giving his resignation, which kind of caught a lot of people off guard?
I think the resignation of the police chief was because he could no longer perform his duties with the trust of the community when he stood at the press conference and said that he released the tape so people could see she was saying taser, taser, like he was trying to justify or make an excuse for the shooting, which had nothing to do with the fact that if she'd been trained and had to go consistently through practices and knowing the difference between a gun and a taser, that her saying taser would somehow excuse the fact she didn't know the difference between the weight and the color and the form of a gun. He was trying to acquit her before we even got to a trial. Because of that, because of prejudgment, which is a violation of him as being chief, he did the right thing to resign because he no longer was performing as chief, he was performing as a defense attorney. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Conf. Hi, I'm with the BBC. I'm actually working on a 36-minute program that will air on Friday. And I wondered if you and others
Thank you, sir.
No, I just got it on camera. I wondered
Great question as well.
Hey, so it's VP 539 clear. You can